And welcome. We are here with Pod Jerky. Here I am with my lovely wife, and we've got our drinks. We are ready. Still got our black cherry Mike's Hard Lemonade. So by the end of the show, I'll probably be drunk because this will be my second one. And yeah, that's pretty
much.
We're
lightweights because we're old.
Yeah, and we don't really drink too much. So just a little bit of a costume change. We just had an amazing opener with Matthew Moy from Two Broke Girls. It was a fantastic show, and we just had fun with it, I guess. I'm not sure how many people were able to tune into that.
Lots of comments.
But it was really, really fun, and it was a pleasure to have him on. And as always, he's an amazing guest for us. But we are going to continue on with the first show of the convention, which is my show, Pod Jerky. Amy has guest appeared on multiple episodes as well, so you guys pretty much know her as well. So welcome to the show. Today, we're actually going to be talking about something spring break. Yeah. And this was actually your idea.
It was.
And this was actually something that I didn't even think about because this was, I guess, I called it the Do Not Travel with Tom episode.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And it's very difficult because anytime we go anywhere on vacation or we travel anywhere, it's always a mess. It always ends up in a disaster.
Always you. Like, I'm fine. Nothing generally bad happens to me. It's always you.
Right. So this is an episode that I did no research on whatsoever.
Yeah, I wrote them all down.
I let you write down everything that was happening because I'm going to just go off of what you're saying because you're the one who has to deal with my nonsense every time something happens. So,
I'm sure your friends, if we had invited them on, so pre-me, could also probably attest to all the crazy things that happened to you on vacation.
Probably.
But that could be a whole other episode.
And just for the record, these glasses are very front heavy. So if they fall off during the show, I'm just tossing them aside. But yeah, so you go ahead.
Okay.
And you start off with a vacation story that I guess either injury or some kind of shit that happened or anything bad that happened, because that's always the case. So go ahead.
So our first vacation together, we went to Cuba. And I pretty much, I think, let you kind of take charge of where we were going to stay. It really had been my first time ever going to the Caribbean. So I think we paid some ridiculous price. Like, it was so cheap. And I did not know any better. I know better now. But we went. So the resort was lovely. The people in Cuba are fantastic. It is a little scary although it's not like that now, but the first time you go, you basically get off the plane and there's people with like guns, like their military looks after the incoming flights. I don't think they do it now, but they did when we went. And I think the only bad thing that happened to me is I did get food poisoning on that trip. Don't eat the beef. But inevitably, anytime we go to the Caribbean, you refuse to wear sunscreen. I don't know what it is, why you do it, but every time we go down south, you get burnt to a crisp, tomato red, can't sleep. Basically, it's terrible. There's not enough afterburn or aloe in the world to soothe your pain. But then the worst part about it is the next day, you're like totally fine and have the most beautiful golden brown tan.
And that's why I do it.
Oh, but it's, things like skin cancer and all those other good things. And then the pain that you ensue for the first 24 hours. But it is rather annoying how quickly you tan after.
I do tan well.
But the piece that stands out to me about this vacation more than anything, because you got to remember, it's my first time, basically like international travel, first time going away with a guy. And because I
feel special.
You are. The first time And we're not married. So when you get up to the customs booths at the airport coming home,
we're not married at that time.
At that time, we're married now. Sorry, we were still dating at the time. You basically get up and you can't see through to the other side of customs. So they basically said, are you traveling together? Yes. Are you married? No. Okay, you go over here, you go over here. So I go up, I get through, I check in, everything's fine. They send you through this little door, and you're basically at the point where they start to check your like carry-on luggage and everything. And I'm standing there and Tom's not coming through. And I'm standing there and Tom's still not coming through. And like hordes and hordes of people are coming through the customs doors. No Tom. I'm like, oh my God, Tom's been stopped. Tom's been arrested in Cuba. How the hell, like, what am I supposed to do? We're not married. You know, basically I'm nothing to these people. I didn't know what I was going to do. And it was probably 20 minutes and they kept trying to like push me through. And I was like, no, my traveling partner is still stuck. Like he hasn't come through yet. I'm waiting here. And they kept trying to push me through the line. And I kept holding back. I'm like, right now I'm going to get arrested because I'm like fighting with the customs people because I don't want to go through the line. And it ended up turning out, thankfully, that it was just the people in front of you that ended up taking a really long time. And Tom actually got through with no trouble, but it was a little scary there for 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, see, it wasn't me.
But it kind of was because you have it's like we picked the wrong line. It was like on the way down, of course, your luggage is the one that gets selected for security check. Every time we travel, I don't know what it is about you, if there's like a tag that they put into your carry-on luggage, but we get stopped every time for you to get luggage check.
Very true.
Right.
Very true. But that wasn't the worst.
No, that was just the start.
That was just the start of
our
vacation troubles. But that was just, I guess, something that you still stuck around after that. So
I did.
I mean,
I didn't blame you for that one. I didn't really think it was your fault at that time.
Right.
First time, like we didn't really know. So then I guess our next trip, I don't know if probably not doing these in sequential order, but the next one that stands out to me is we decided we were going to go to Montreal for the weekend. I'd always wanted to see Cirque du Soleil, and they were doing the Michael Jackson show, and we could not get tickets in Toronto. And so you ended up finding tickets at the Bell Center in Montreal. So we made a weekend out of it. We had just bought a new car. I think it might have been 6 months old. And so we're like, this is great. Brand new car. Let's go on a road trip. It's about an 8-hour drive from where we live to Montreal. Isn't it 8?
5.
Okay, well, maybe when you drive, but it felt like 8. And we basically went on Priceline, which is like a choose your own adventure when it comes to picking a hotel. So we picked a hotel in a certain area, and you basically don't know what you're staying until right before you leave. So we ended up booking a beautiful, hugely fancy hotel for a ridiculous price. And we get there and there's no parking. So you have to do valet or nothing. So we have no option but to do the valet.
Keep going.
And it's like $40 or something like that for the valet per night. So obviously weren't anticipating the cost, but no big deal. So then we put the car in valet and we just decided, okay, we're going to walk or take the subway, because apparently the subway system in Montreal is supposed to be fantastic. And so what we ended up doing was we asked the front desk how far it was a walk to Old Montreal. And he's like, oh, it's just a couple of blocks. So it's the middle of summer in Montreal. It's ridiculously hot and humid. So we start walking thinking like it's literally 3 or 4 city blocks away. It isn't. It's like a 2-hour walk. And we were like soaking wet by the time we got there. And I think that's the trip that you got the most nasty blister from that walk. So that was the first issue. So then we get into the hotel. And for those of you that don't know, Tom is allergic to feathers or anything that's down. So we decide that we get into the hotel, and we had told them ahead of time, like, all the bedding has to be synthetic. We get in, everything is down. There's a feather bed, there's a feather duvet, there's feather pillows. So the poor maids had to come up and basically change the bed the minute we walked into the room. And then we go to the show, and we come home, and our phone is flashing in the hotel room. And
let me tell this part of the story.
I'll drink.
I checked the message, and the message says something happened to your car, but don't come down and talk to us right now. We'll deal with it in the morning. So I run downstairs to the lobby, and the lobby attendant, the manager at the desk said,
concierge,
no, we're not going to tell you about it now. And I said, where's my car? Show me my fucking car right now. And I'm getting very angry at this point because they told me something had happened to the car. And these idiots just stood there and told me, no, we're not going to show you the car. I said, where is my car? So finally, I was mad enough that I was causing a scene down in the lobby.
And remember, we're in a fancy hotel, and we're basically dressed like this.
Yeah, and I don't care. But they finally took me downstairs, and they actually smashed our car as the...
they ran a pickup truck in it.
Yeah, they ran another truck into our car in the parking lot. And I immediately said, you guys are going to be paying for this. Like, I'm not paying for any of this. And they said, well, you have to call our hotel management and blah, blah, blah. And the story went on. And I finally got a hold of them. And, it was almost an argument where they said, well, you have insurance on your car. And I was like, no. You're paying for this. This is not going through my insurance. This is not like...
They basically smashed the whole rear quarter panel. And again, remember, at the beginning of the story, we just bought the car. It had only been like 6 months old. And that they did pay for it. It was, I think, like $1,800 to get it repaired. They did pay for it, thankfully. So no issues there. But then the following morning, as sweet husband that you are, let me sleep in and decided that you were going to walk down the street to the coffee shop and grab coffee and breakfast for us. And then you get back to the hotel, and you have to remember, I sleep like the dead. Like, I don't wake up for nothing. And apparently the key card wasn't working in the door, and the door wouldn't open. So I guess the latch was locked on it. So Tom had to go downstairs, talk to the concierge, got a different key.
I was banging on the door, and you didn't hear nothing. And I'm banging on the door because the door would not open at all. So I go downstairs to get the master key. They come upstairs, and they couldn't open it either. So the door lock had busted with the key card, was not working at all. And Amy's inside sleeping, and I'm calling her cell phone. We're calling the room. We're banging on the door. She heard nothing. Finally, she wakes up,
had a really good night,
and opens up the door and was like,
no, the hotel front desk started calling the room. And I all of a sudden I could hear all this commotion outside the door. The phone's ringing. I was like, what is happening right now? So I'm angry. I pick up the phone. I'm like, what? They're like, your husband's outside the door. Well, and then they didn't believe that you were actually in the room with me. Like, they didn't believe that you were
right.
Like, they didn't understand how, like, that we were actually related. And so the front desk finally called the hotel room, and I woke up and finally opened the door. So then we decided at that point we were going to spend the day touring around Montreal, and I think it was like 8:30 in the morning, and we just packed up the car and came home because we had enough. Like, after 2 days of this, we were like, we're done, let's just go home.
And just to say that the actual show that we went to see, Cirque du Soleil, Michael Jackson, was actually terrible. We had very high expectations for it, and it was not.
They didn't play the good stuff, and when they did play it, it was like 30 seconds. It was very bad. And like, they're a wonderful production, so I was kind of sad that didn't happen. And then maybe it's a sign we should not go to Quebec anymore. And don't get me wrong, people, if you want to go, it's a lovely city. Same thing with Quebec City. Quebec City is an even longer drive for us because it's on the other side of the province.
We're just talking about with me. We shouldn't go.
Yeah, we shouldn't go.
Yes.
It is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely stunning. So we go to Quebec City. We book into this hotel that was built in, I don't know, the 70s. It feels like the decor hasn't changed much since then. And we get into the room, And it's not queen beds, it's actually doubles. And like we both like our space. So they didn't have any other rooms available in the hotel. So we had to stay in the room that we were in. So let alone we ended up having to actually sleep in separate beds that weekend. This is so romantic. And are you cold?
I'm very cold. This is supposed to be spring break. I'm freezing.
It's like, pretty much almost zero here. And so we decide, and again, why we go to Quebec in the middle of the summer, I'll never know. I guess that's your holiday schedule, so don't really have an option. And then there's like strange stains on the headboard.
No, not those kind of stains, guys. Get your
like
heads out of the gutter.
Blood stains. It looks like blood stains. I chalked it up to being chocolate. That's what I told myself because it was the only way I was going to stay in the room. Thankfully, we only had to sleep there and that was it. We didn't spend a lot of time in the room. But the one thing I was not expecting about Quebec City was the hills, because it's basically up a cliff from the St. Lawrence River. And I think my favorite part about our Quebec City trip was the ghost tour at the Citadel. So when I say there are hills, I'm talking you may as well climb a mountain to get to some of these sightseeing places. And there are no public transit. It's basically walk or take a horse and buggy. That's about it. And so Tom's like, we have to go pick up the tickets before the show. So let's go do it. So we walk, and it is like hiking a mountain to get up to get the tickets. Then we had to hike back down. And then when it was time to go for the night tour, for the ghost tour, we had to walk back up this crazy hill. So needless to say, we were dead tired just from the amount of walking. Plus the rest of Quebec City is a ton of walking in hills.
Okay. Before we go on, I'm going to answer this comment right here. That Trish did this tour.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you a funny story about that tour, because, when I first looked it up, it said it was this ghost tour.
This one makes you feel so innocent and pure, honey.
And the picture on there looked like a ghost. So when we went there, we had this guide, this tour guide that was on giving us this tour of this thing. And we're going through it, and Amy still can't get enough of this. We're going through the whole thing, and I was like, where are the ghosts? And she's like, the tour guide is the ghost. Can't you tell he's dressed in all of this period costumes, and his face is kind of white with makeup? And I was like, that's supposed to be the ghost? That's not what the picture looked like. And don't get me wrong, I didn't think it was real ghosts, but what I thought was when we would go into certain rooms, there would be like a projection of a ghost, and they would have like some kind of smoke and mirrors magic kind of thing that would show up. And apparently that was not it. And I was super disappointed in that. So that was just a funny story about the Citadel.
He was so confused for like 3/4 of the tour. He kept asking when the ghosts were coming. It was so funny. And it was, a beautiful property. If you like history, it's a great tour. Don't expect holograms. It's real people dressed up like ghosts.
They lied.
They didn't. And then we got back to the hotel. You had to take out the pamphlet because you're like, no, these are supposed to be holograms.
They're supposed to be holograms. That's what it looks like on the picture. So I was a little disappointed in that. Anyways, that got kind of sidetracked off of what we were talking about.
But that was just funny.
Yeah.
So then the next day we decide we're going to go down to... my life with me, I cannot remember the name of it, but it's right down at the water.
Chateau Frontenac.
Yeah, but remember when you have to go down into the little village? I can't remember what that little street's called, but it's all these cutesy little shops and everything. Bring cash is all I'm going to say. And we decided we're going to take the stairs down. And let me tell you, it's another mountain to get down. And we decided we were going to take the Funiculaire, which is basically like a tram track that basically goes up the hill to get you back up to the Chateau Frontenac. Well, we didn't have cash, and they only take coin, and it was literally $2. We did not have $2 on us. We
had a bank card.
We had a bank card. They don't take Interact. And so we went through every shop down there. Nobody had an ATM for us to take cash out. So we had to walk back up. And I'm not joking. If you go onto my Facebook and look at our Quebec City photos, it will show you how steep these stairs are. This would be the one time I think you did better than me, where you actually made it up to the top of the hill. I was at the point where I was so tired.
You're like, leave me here.
I was like, just leave me here. Go on without me. I can't do this. This is ridiculous. Like, I have never been on a vacation that required so much work. It was so much exercise. I think we lost like 10 pounds despite all the good food we ate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's our Quebec story. That's our Montreal story.
But one was Quebec City, but highly recommend it. Very beautiful. Just don't go with us. And then I feel like we got to do Florida.
Let's go Florida.
So Florida, we rent a house with friends, and we basically, it was dirt cheap. The dollar was on par, which for Canadians is like a moment to celebrate. And so we basically agreed to take our own cars down. So we drove down because we were staying for 2 weeks. And I would say that the trip down, other than getting lost in Charlotte, trying to find the Walmart, the trip down was really actually quite good. Too long of a drive the first day, I would say. But all in all, made great time going down there. Had a lovely vacation while we were there. We did all the Disney and all the parks, and we had a private house with a pool. It was wonderful. And then it came to the drive home. And so, we took 2 days to get down. My assumption was we were going to take 2 days to get back. But you decided that you were going to cross something off your bucket list, which was we were going to drive it all the way home in one shot.
22 hours straight.
Needless to say, I'm shocked we're still married, because I don't like to sit for that long. Like, the drive down to Charlotte was almost 12 hours, and that was long enough for me. I was ready to kill him on the way there, let alone having to do this on the way home. So we basically left at, I don't know, like 2 or 3 in the morning, and had a slight incident at the Walgreens in Jacksonville where we basically thought we were going to get robbed or murdered at the Walgreens at 4 in the morning, because we both needed a bathroom break and nothing else was open. But that's a whole other story we'll save for another day. But it was, needless to say, a little frightening. Do you want a blanket?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And so we trucked it. We drove all the way. And I think I can't drive long distance. Like, you can get about 3 or 4 hours out of me and then I'm done. Like, my eyes will start to close. I will start drifting. So I was really of no help to you, because I was so paranoid that he was going to fall asleep at the wheel and drive us off a cliff on these interstates that I didn't sleep while he was driving to be able to do like a switch shift on the drive home. So I'm now very irritable. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. And I'm stressed out because I do not want to do this drive. So I think I made him pull over to a rest stop somewhere in either Virginia or West Virginia. And I basically went into the bathroom and I sat there for like 45 minutes and just cried. I was so mad. I did not want to be in the car anymore, because at that point,
I didn't know that she did that at this time. I did not know that. This is new information that came later on, that I didn't know that she was actually in the washroom crying because she wanted to stay in a hotel that night.
Yeah,
but again, all I wanted to say is that I just wanted to try to see if we could actually do it in one night. And we did. And I said, I will never do that again.
No.
I would never do that again. We did go back to Florida again.
And we drove.
And we didn't do it in one night. We
may as well have. We drove home all the way to Pittsburgh.
We drove to Pittsburgh, which was only 4 hours away from where we are.
Like, at that point, we may as well have just gone home.
We should have just gone home. And we actually ended up getting sick in Pittsburgh. So
from Chick-fil-A, our first time trying Chick-fil-A, which we believe everyone we know that in Canada that has traveled to the States says you need to eat Chick-fil-A. So we found a Chick-fil-A like 30 seconds from the hotel. And then we were both up with food poisoning all night.
Yeah.
Needless to say, we are not meant to go to Florida. But what I will say about our second trip to Florida is we decided we loved the house we stayed in so much the first time that we booked it again the second time we went down. We get there and it's like the end house before it turns on the cul-de-sac. And there is a giant sinkhole in front of the park right beside the house. We literally could have hit cones, the construction cones, trying to turn into the driveway. Like, that's how close it was to the house. So for the entire week that we were there, all we heard was construction. So basically the city or the town or wherever the county, wherever we were, basically had to do construction to fix this freaking sinkhole. And it took the entire week we were there.
And we didn't actually go to Florida to go to the parks this time because we had already done it. We went to go on a vacation, have our own pool in the backyard, do a little bit of shopping.
We don't have one.
And we did a lot of just like smaller stuff around in Florida, but nothing major. And
So
it was just
we should have.
We didn't know that there was a sinkhole there. Obviously, nobody actually knows that it's coming.
Right before we got there.
Yeah, and they literally blocked the pylons off at our driveway.
Yeah.
So it was almost that we weren't even going to be able to get down the street to get to the house. Luckily, we were able to use the drive up, but the entire time you're sitting in the pool or you're in the house, it was like they were doing construction. And I went out one night and I yelled at the construction guys and said, guys, it's midnight here. And you guys are still like drilling and like doing the jackhammer into the concrete and or asphalt, whatever. And all the neighbors came out as well that were there on vacation.
It's a rental community, right?
And so they were saying the same thing. And they're like, hey, we're allowed to work until whatever time we want. So we're going to work right through the night if we want to.
So where we live and in most of the province, there's bylaws around how long construction can go because of how close residential is. Apparently that same bylaw did not exist in the county that we were in. So basically they could work until they were done based on the city approved them to work. So needless to say, it was a super fun time. I mean, we still took advantage of it. We'd go out during the day when we could and we'd go walk around so we could do it. But needless to say, relaxing in the pool while we were there, not the most relaxing.
No.
But I did make him stop in a hotel on the way home so that I didn't kill him. How are we doing on time?
We still got 20 minutes.
All right. So then I think most of you are, if you've listened to Pod Jerky, you're familiar with some of Tom's health stories. And so Dominican was our second Caribbean trip together, and it was actually our honeymoon. And prior to us going on our honeymoon, you had a wound on your foot, which we thought was just a blister. And it turns out that is actually where you likely caught the infection that ended up causing the next year of trauma to our first year of marriage. So story short of an adventure on his own.
So short, like just to make the story short, what happened was I had a blister on there. We ended up booking a place at the spa while we were there. We won actually.
Do you remember the massage table?
We won a spa treatment day.
Load of crap, by the way. Don't believe them.
Yeah, it's garbage. But we got like a massage and we got there and they said, oh, we're running behind, go into the hot tub. And this is likely where I caught a bacterial infection.
It was lovely though.
And I got out and it took a couple of weeks by the time I had gotten home. I went to my friend's wedding. My foot had swelled up so bad that it was stuck in the shoe that I had rented. I'm not
laughing at you. I'm laughing at the massage table.
Yeah. And it got stuck in the shoe that we almost had to cut the shoe off that it was so swollen. Took the sock off, went to the foot doctor, and the doctor said, go to the hospital. You need to go to the hospital. Like, this is serious. And I had like this big, like, looked like a sun that was purple on my foot. And it covered my entire foot. So they put me on IV extreme, like antibiotics right away. And that took almost a year to clear up. So that turned into an ulcer, which turned into me finding out that I was diabetic, which they had me in infectious disease as well, because they were worried that it was an infectious disease. And this is all just from the Dominican, is where they suspect it would have happened, because that's the only place I would have picked it up because I hadn't been anywhere else. Yeah. And that was just a crazy story just from our honeymoon. And I was having problems walking while we were there, but it took a while we were there because that's what happened.
So the funny part about this trip was, don't believe it when they want to give you free stuff, because then they take you off the resort and try and sell you timeshare. So we fell for it. Don't do that. But we did get the spa day and we did go for a massage. This was your first time going for a massage, right?
Yeah.
So we get this lovely, it's a honeymoon, right? So we get this lovely couples massage. It's in this beautiful room and they got spa music going. But again, the massage therapists don't speak a ton of English. And so of course, get down to your underwear and crawl under the blanket. And you kept your swim trunks on. Obviously, you didn't have anything else on underneath them, so you decided to keep your shorts on.
And she kept telling me to take them off.
She kept telling him to take them off, and he's like trying to explain to her he doesn't want to. And she just kept yelling off at him.
Yeah.
So that was one thing in itself. And she's this tiny little woman, and Tom is, 6 foot. You weighed a little bit more at the time. Anyway, it was hilarious. So we get up onto the massage tables, and they're wood, and she's massaging you, and all I can hear, like mine is going swimmingly. I am enjoying mine quite well. And then all of a sudden, all I can hear from his table is eek, eek, eek. I don't know what she was doing to you, but all I could hear was like this bed squeaking.
The table was creaky. It was a piece of crap.
So it totally sounded like she was taking advantage of you.
On our honeymoon.
I totally forgot about that until now. Oh,
so that's why it's funny for her. Yeah.
Because it sounded like someone was basically taking advantage of my husband in the bed next to us. Oh, anyway.
I don't know what's going on with the camera today, but the camera keeps on cutting out.
It is ridiculously windy here. So I imagine that we're probably having some connection issues due to that. It's ridiculous outside. I thought my dog was going to like run away with me on our walk tonight. So then I would say our last vacation was St. Lucia.
Yep.
And I would say it is probably one of the best vacations we have been on together. We may, and I say we, I mean him, have had a little bit too much fun on the second night that we were there. So the first night, obviously, we got in a little bit later. We met this lovely couple who actually just lives in a city very close to us on the bus ride to the resort. And we ended up meeting them up at dinner, and we basically ended up spending the entire week with them. They were a ton of fun. We had a blast. Everything was great. Then we met an American couple
from California,
roughly the same age as us. And so
no, they were like 10 years younger than us.
Were they?
Yes.
I don't feel that old.
Yeah, they were like 10 years younger than us, but they
Apparently
saw the
Tom
amount
wanted to keep up.
They saw the amount of fun that we were having.
Yeah.
And of course, when we go to these resorts, it's open bar.
Yeah.
You go in, that's all inclusive in what you pay. So
you gotta remember, guys,
advantage.
we don't drink.
And we don't drink.
Very much.
Tom does not drink at
Very
all. At all.
Here's the thing about when Tom, so let's just compare our glasses. Let's just show them. Okay. So I sip, Tom gulps. So Tom is done and I am still enjoying mine. So imagine now partying with people who are younger than us, who are like, yay, shot, right? So we're at the club on the resort. And for some reason you felt the need to keep up.
Right.
Tom also doesn't dance. I have video. I may or may not have posted it to my Facebook account. If you want to see Tom dancing, because it's quite funny. Needless to say, we had a blast until we got back to the room. Right. You could barely walk a straight line to get to our room. And you get a little excitable when you're that drunk.
I'm a fun drunk.
He's a fun drunk. He really is. So we get back to the room. We lay down on the bed and he's like, not good. It's not good. Goes in. Basically, everything we had that day came back up. And he basically spent almost the whole night in the bathroom. At one point, I'm not even sure if you slept on the floor in there or not. But needless to say, the following day, he could not lift his head off the pillow. He was so hungover.
I wasted a whole day in St. Lucia in bed.
Yeah. Needless to say, his wife was not happy, and she went and had a great vacation without him because I was not hanging out in the room with a hungover husband. So I went down to the pool. I met up with the friends that we had met. I had a great day. We had booked the steakhouse for dinner, so I made you get up, shower, and get dressed and come with us. And thankfully you did, but you had been violently ill the night before to the point where you basically had almost no voice left. You basically felt like you were swallowing swords for the rest of the trip. You basically couldn't drink.
So I had strawberry daiquiris the entire time because the ice felt good.
Not non-alcoholic as well, by the way, because they will leave the room out. And anyway, needless to say, great trip. We had a ton of fun. Everything was great. We get to the airport and all of a sudden he's like, I don't feel good. Something's not right. I feel awful. I'm going to be sick. I have a headache. I feel dizzy. I'm like, oh my God, your sugar is either too low or too high.
And this was not alcohol related because I didn't drink the rest of the trip.
We had no idea what was happening. He was I'm going to admit it, a terrible diabetic at the time. Basically, we didn't have any information. Like, we didn't have any of his test strips with us. We had nothing. So I'm like giving him orange juice, giving him sugar, trying to help, figuring like his sugar's probably just too low. Needless to say, the 4-hour wait to get onto the plane was horrendous. Then we get on the plane and he basically is having involuntary muscle spasms the entire time on the plane. And like, he's just twitching. But
I was aware of it. Like, my arms were kind of just like shooting out like this, like out of nowhere. And I knew what I was doing. And you kept saying like, what is happening? What's happening? I was like, I don't know. It's doing it on its own. I couldn't control it.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop it from happening.
I was getting mad because part of me was like, why are you doing this? Well, like, it's the end of the trip. Like, what a shitty way to end our vacation. We had such a great time. Like, oh my God, we're going to have to call freaking 911. I'm going to have to call the flight attendant over. They're going to have an ambulance waiting for us when we land in Toronto. Like, it was to the point where I was so concerned that I was so tempted to actually call for medical help because it was getting so bad. And like, I had given him a Tylenol at the beginning of the flight. That didn't seem to be working. Thankfully somebody had extra strength Advil on the plane, and for whatever reason, whatever was going on, that worked, because by the time we landed in Toronto, you were perfectly fine. It was like nothing had happened over. And like, you got to remember, the flight to St. Lucia from Toronto is a 5-hour flight. So this was going on from like before we even boarded. And so it was really freaking scary. But by the time we got our luggage and everything, you were totally okay. Like, It was the strangest phenomenon. We have no idea what happened. Needless to say, don't want to do that again. And sadly, that's been our last vacation. And then COVID hit, and that was it. All the big plans we had all got canceled. But the one vacation trip that you didn't remember that I said I was going to surprise you with was the camping trip with our friends. Do you remember what happened?
I do remember that.
So we decided we were going to be all adventurous. He does not enjoy the outdoors the same way that I enjoy the outdoors. You're not like a camping guy. You don't want to sleep on an air mattress in a tent. Like, that's not your thing. But everybody was doing it. There was 4 couples. We were all going to go. And your friends had booked basically a boating or rafting trip down this river. And guys, don't get me wrong, it is a very mild river. It was meant to be this beautifully relaxing little cruise down the river where we started basically upriver and we would land essentially at our campsite. So we get there and the couples break up, right? So there's 2 couples in one boat and 2 couples in another boat. We happen to get the boat with a couple that is not experienced at all on the water, let alone rowing or having to do any form of boating. We have a leak in our raft. So basically we're losing air the entire trip down the river.
And as we're going, right behind us is a giant thunderstorm. You could see the thunderstorm coming. Like, and it was sad. It was actually sad because somebody died on the river from that thunderstorm that weekend while we were there. But that's how bad the weather was. And our raft was running out of air. So we're going as fast as we can. And, we get back there and they're like, oh yeah, that one's broken. And I was like, this is what you give to us?
And like our other friends are like sailing along, having no issues. And they're like miles ahead of us down the river, having no issues. We finally get to the campsite. We're exhausted because we've had to basically paddle 10 times harder than we should have had to. And I think we just made it,
and it poured
into the tent before, I think, one of the largest thunderstorms I think I've ever seen. And then at that point is when we had heard that somebody had been injured on the water. They'd actually been hit by lightning. So,
and unfortunately they passed away.
They did. Yeah. But it was so bad that the tents were drenched and we ended up having to like sit in the cars during the rainstorm because you actually couldn't be in the tent. Like, it was so bad. like if you touch the side of the tent, you basically were going to be in Noah's Ark. It was so terrible. So I had to throw that one in there because I had kind of forgotten about it the other day. And then I was taking notes. I was like, no, there's got to be more that's happened to us. But that one stuck with me because it was with your friends, and it just, I'm sure it's not the only adventure you guys have had with them, but.
Oh, I'm sure there are plenty more, but we only have a 45-minute time slot. And
those are the ones I can remember.
This is why we call it Don't Travel with Tom. Now, all of these trips here are fantastic trips on their own.
Highly recommend them.
But don't do it with me, because this is apparently what happens when you do it with me.
I'm okay if you want to go. I'll take a do-over.
So I'm going to take these things off because they're starting to bother my eyes a little bit. And there's kind of a blue tint to them. But I want to get a little more serious now, because we are at the end of our show for this time. But we are going to end this show in just less than 5 minutes. Thank you, Sarah. I already saw the time. But I just want to say that this convention, I hope that everybody has a fantastic time doing this. A lot of work goes into putting this together so that you all can go and advertise yourself, have fun doing it, get to know other podcasters in the community, and just, I guess, run with it. We hope that you're going to be able to enjoy your time slots, enjoy the panels that are coming up. There's lots in store. We've only started the first 2 hours of the convention right now. And we look forward to seeing everybody participating in this convention. We have announced in the group already that there is going to be a major announcement at the end on the 21st. So please stay tuned to that. That will be probably around the 7 p.m. Time frame. But for now, don't worry about that. I want everybody to just go out there, have fun, enjoy what you're doing, enjoy watching all of these great shows that are going live. We appreciate all of you in this group. We appreciate all of the shows and all the work that you've put in to get the shows going live for this convention. So thank you very much to everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Pod Jerky. And as always, thank you to my lovely wife for coming on the show. And as always, stay safe, be kind to each other. We'll see you guys later.